It's the final week with so much on the line in year number 2 of Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse. 6 points. That's it. 6 points separate first and second as a champion will be crowned this coming weekend in Sparks, Maryland. Who will make the fancy plays, the timely goals, the big saves, the top defensive efforts? We'll see coming up this weekend from Sparks, Maryland. And with that, we welcome you inside our studios. I'm your host, John Brickley, for this Week 4 draft special here on YouTube. A special shout out as well to all of our Unlimited Club members. We always appreciate your support. It's hard to imagine that we're at the final week of the season, but we've got 4 captains who are ready to go. There they are, set to make their picks in this final week of year number 2 of Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse. Let's waste no time and get right into the draft rules. There are 14 players on each team. Captains represent the first pick for their respective teams, so each captain's going to select 13 players to form their roster, as the draft order will snake, starting with the purple captain, in which each captain will get 2 minutes per pick. They must end up with a team with 4 attackers, 4 mids, 4 defenders, and 2 goalies. All right, let's meet our captains at this point, and a familiar face returns to the captain's chair after opening week. She totaled 297 leaderboard points, 125 win points, and 142 stat points. Her 10-save performance in the final game in Week 3 rewarded her with MVP 2 honors, donning the purple jersey this week. 00. Let us introduce to you goalie Katie Glynn. And Katie's facilitator this week will be Christy Foote. Our next captain pressed all the right buttons in constructing her team in week number 3. A 3-0 record that was highlighted by the victory over Team Apuzzo. She compiled 295 win points and 52 stat points, sitting 3rd overall. The former USC star, a captain for the 3rd week in a row, this week wearing blue. There she is, midfielder Amanda Johansson. And the facilitator this week for her will be Nicole Flores. This next individual is the only player to be named a captain for all 4 weeks. She totaled 340 points in week number 3, 210 win points, and 100 stat points. More importantly, she's only 6 points back of the top spot in Athletes Unlimited. Former Tewaaraton winner out of BC, where she had a standout career. Back in the orange this week, it's Sam Apuzzo. And her facilitator this week is going to be Renee Olson. And lastly, sitting at number 1 on the leaderboard for the 3rd straight week, wearing the gold uniform, with a total of 1,111 points, 150 MVP points, the only goalie with over 100 saves this season, setting the Unlimited Lax season record. A national champion in her time at North Carolina, the goalie, Tar Heel, number 77, Taylor Moreno. And her facilitator this week is going to be Amber Hill. All right, so here we go. Sparks, Maryland, final weekend. Games available on ESPNU, ESPN2, and on ESPN Plus Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, with Joe Beninati, Courtney Martinez-Connor giving us all of the action. And players earn points in a variety of ways. First, it's stat points. These points are used to create an individual leaderboard. You've got, in addition to that, players can be awarded an additional 20 points if their team wins a single quarter, 45 in each game, plus a total of 3 MVPs will be selected following each game. All right, here we go. Week number 4, the final week. Team Glenn is going to have the number 1 pick overall to start things off, and Katie is ready to go.
Attacker, Charlotte North.
Charlotte North, she was the 1st overall pick in number 1 of Athletes Unlimited. And she was an impact player back on Saturday. Here she is with the game winner, showcasing double eights out of Dallas, Texas, with her cause being Morgan's Message, the 2-time Tewaaraton winner out of Boston College, who right now sits 2nd in goals, 3rd in assists. Charlotte North, number 1. Who will Amanda Johansson select with her first pick? She's ready to go.
Midfielder, Ali Mastriani.
Ali Mastriani, who will be active with limitations this coming weekend for Team Johansson. Mastriani was last week's number 1 overall pick as the former Tar Heel out of Martinsville, New Jersey, is back in the fold, the top 5 pick here in week number 4 of Athletes Unlimited. And you will see as these draft rooms continue to increase, the players hear their names and they move in to their respective draft rooms after hearing their name called by their captains. Sam Apuzzo, ready to go with her first pick.
Midfielder, Dempsey Arsenault.
It's almost a guarantee that if Dempsey Arsenault is on the board and Team Apuzzo is ready to make a selection, Dempsey and Sam are going to be together. 2 stars in their own right in their time from Boston College. Put up a season high, did Dempsey, with 4 goals and 1 assist versus Team Moreno over the weekend. Right now sitting 9th overall in points total with 1,023. And Dempsey joining in with Sam and Renee, and that is how the draft room right now is composed in Team Apuzzo. And round number 1 is ready to go in the final pick with Team Moreno.
Midfielder, Marie Mccool.
All right, so a former Tar Heel selecting another fellow Tar Heel, this time Marie Mccool, who, just like Ali Mastriani, right now will be active this coming weekend with limitations. You may recall back in week number 2, she was the number 1 overall pick. One of the top draw control specialists is Marie Mccool, and she is the 4th pick in this draft. And as this snake draft continues, what will happen is Team Moreno will have the first pick to begin round number 2. And I talked about Marie Mccool, how valuable she is as the circle. Talk about draw controls. 35 is where Mccool leads all draw control specialists. You've also got Ali Mastriani, who we heard her name come off the board for Team Johansson, and then Ali Kennedy, who we will hear her name coming up very shortly, no doubt. So here's how it works so far. 4 picks are in. Just to recap the first 4 picks of the night: Charlotte North, Ali Mastriani for Team Johansson. Team Apuzzo, no surprise, went with Dempsey Arsenault, who was also a former captain, and Team Moreno with the final pick in round number 1 going with Marie Mccool. So every captain, facilitators, these are what they're looking at right now. The final week draft here for season number 2 of Athletes Unlimited. All the attackers, midfielders, defenders, and goalies. In fact, 2 of our captains this week are goalies with Moreno and Glenn. So again, 4 attackers, 4 midfielders, 4 defenders, and 2 goalies. That is the requirement needed to come up to construct the 14-player roster for these 4 respective captains. Mentioned how tight the race has been. Taylor Moreno with a 6-point lead on Sam Apuzzo, and Taylor ready to go with her pick.
Attacker, Kenzie Kent.
Attacker Kenzie Kent, a former BC star in her own right, and she put together a historic night over the weekend. 5-goal performance that she had over the weekend, and those 5 goals in a single game, setting an Athletes Unlimited record. Kenzie Kent, who was a star athlete not only on the lacrosse field for Boston College, but on the ice as well with the BC women's hockey team. You can see there her cause being Team Impact, and she hopes to make an impact in this final week. Sam, with the next pick, ready to go.
Attacker, Lauren Gilbert.
Lauren Gilbert, who has 941 total points on the season, has an Athletes Unlimited best 24 goals. Had the game winner versus Team Moreno, leads with those 24 goals after these 3 weeks, was a standout in her own right at a very historic program in Northwestern. And in that game over the weekend against Team Moreno, she finished with 6 straight goals with Apuzzo. And there they are together, Dempsey Arsenault along with Lauren Gilbert, and Team Johansson is ready to make the next pick.
Attacker, Courtney Fortunato.
Attacker Courtney Fortunato is off the board, heading to Team Johansson after Amanda and Ali Mastriani, 2 midfielders, so an attacker now in the fold. And Courtney Fortunato, who put together a stellar career in her time at Notre Dame, more importantly, jumped up 19 spots to 15th overall. The biggest movers back in week number 3. Kaylee Waters, 18 spots she moved up, followed by Meg Doty and Molly Wolf, each with 14 spots moving up in the ranking changes. And for Courtney Fortunato, she certainly wants to make a lasting impact in this final chance to make the biggest move when it comes to being the champion in Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse in season number 2. Katie Glenn standing by with her next pick.
Midfielder, Haley Warden.
Kaylee Warden, who was part of that 2018 James Madison National Championship team, who also serves as an assistant on the James Madison staff. She and Charlotte North will be teammates coming up this weekend in Sparks, Maryland, and her cause being Morgan's Message. So Katie Glenn, a goalie, second time this season she has been named a captain, and so far has to be pleased with Charlotte North going along with Warden as well. All right, so fans, time to earn points for tuning into tonight's draft. There is your code. Enter that code under fan codes in the Athletes Unlimited app. All right, so a lot of intrigue. Here we go in week number 4, and as we wait for Team Glenn in the snake draft to begin round number 3, here's how it has shaped out so far in the first 2 rounds. That last round featuring Kenzie Kent. Lauren Gilbert went to Team Apuzzo. Team Johansson went with Courtney Fortunato. And the biggest mover of the week was Fortunato, as we just showed you before. And Kaylee Warden is now part of Team Glenn, who has the next pick. Katie, which direction you going?
Midfielder, Allie Kennedy.
All right, I said it before. We would hear Allie Kennedy's name come off the board relatively soon, and there it is to begin round number 3. She has played certainly an impact in her first 3 weeks. The pride of North Babylon, New York, where she played her college ball at Stony Brook. So an interesting way for Katie Glenn, going in midfield direction back-to-back in her last 2 selections. As Allie, there you see her on the bottom right portion of your screen into that draft room for Team Glenn, where the captain, facilitator, and those players picking all part of the strategizing, as Amanda ready to go with her pick.
Defender, Becca Block.
Well, no surprise that the reigning Defensive Player of the Year is off the board early. This time in round number 3, Becca Block, a standout in her own right in her time at Syracuse, one of the anchors for the defensive unit in whichever jersey she has worn this season in Athletes Unlimited. This time she will be donning the blue for Team Johansson this coming weekend in Sparks, Maryland. And as we continue through the draft, we'll continue to show you who the best available are, whether it be an attacker, a midfielder, defender, or goalie, as Sam is ready to go with her selection.
Midfielder, Katie O'Donnell.
All right, Katie O'Donnell, a veteran presence in her time at Penn State, has been one of the top selections this year in Athletes Unlimited, with her cause being Team Impact. So the second midfielder, along with Dempsey Arsenault, is off the board for Team Apuzzo. She will be wearing orange this weekend, with her cause being Team Impact. So each captain has to select 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 4 attackers, along with 2 goalies. And as Katie hears her name, there she is into the draft room for Team Apuzzo. So still a number of talented players in a variety of positions left available on the board. It's still early, but this is where it becomes an intrigue for these captains, because this is what they have to do. They've got to select 4 attackers, 4 midfielders, 4 defenders, and 2 goalies. That is how you construct your 14-player roster in Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse. So after Team Apuzzo having made the latest selection, it's Team Moreno ready to make the next pick in round 3.
Midfielder, Lindsay McCone.
Lindsay McCone, who has been a valuable asset to whichever team she has been selected to this weekend in Sparks, Maryland. She will be wearing the gold uniform, a standout in her time at Northwestern, the second midfielder off the board for Team Moreno joined in the Zoom room, in the draft room. And these facilitators, these captains, these players all communicating, whether it be through text messages or the Slack channel. And Taylor, and the snake draft begins round 4.
Defender, Emma Trenchard.
There's been a theme so far, if you've been joining us here on Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse during the draft specials. The 2 top defenders have been taken off the board relatively early. Emma Trenchard, who's been number 2 behind Becca Block, is off the board now, a native of Windsor, Connecticut, and a fellow Tar Heel. So she joins Marie Mccool, Kenzie Kent, and Lindsay McCone so far through the 4 rounds here in this Week 4 draft special. And don't miss your chance to see the excitement of Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse in person at the USA Lacrosse headquarters in Sparks, Maryland. The final week of season number 2, as tickets are available today at auprosports.com/tickets. And as we move on in round 4, Sam is standing by with her pick.
Defender, Lizzie Colson.
Lizzie Colson, who suffered her first defeat at the hands of Team Apuzzo last weekend, and she was a captain for Blue last weekend. This time she will be wearing the orange, the 2-time national champion from Maryland, who had some battles, in fact, with Sam Apuzzo in Boston College just a few years ago during championship weekend. She now is going to be wearing the orange, as Amanda is ready to go with her pick.
Attacker, Sam Geiserbeck.
Okay, so another attacker off the board in round 4. This time, Sam Geiserbeck is going to be wearing blue for Team Johansson, joining the front line with Courtney Fortunato. Another North Carolina grad is off the board, with her cause being Preston's League. So 2 attackers halfway through is Amanda Johansson in solidifying her 4 attackers as the requirement in Athletes Unlimited. And so here is how the rosters have shaped out to this point thus far. As you've seen so far, what Team Moreno, Team Apuzzo, Team Johansson have done. Team Glenn has the final pick in round number 4, and as this snake draft continues, she'll also have the first pick of round number 5. And you notice the colors representing the respective captains. Well, that's because the top 4 point getters overall, each captain assigned a color, with gold being the number 1 in terms of the position on the leaderboard. That's followed by orange, blue, and purple. So again, so much intrigue going into this final week of season number 2 of Athletes Unlimited. You've got Sam Apuzzo 6 points back of Taylor Moreno for the number 1 spot this season. And as these captains work their way through the draft, here is the list of available players from each position, is what they're looking at with their facilitators, and Katie is ready to go to round out round 4.
Attacker, Hallie Mastriani.
Hallie Mastriani, who has been one of the top assist distributors this year in Athletes Unlimited. So after going attacker and midfielder in back-to-back picks, another attacker is taken by Team Glenn. Is Hallie, who has been a marquee player this year, now into the draft room for Team Glenn. And you notice the facilitator, Christy Foote, there as well. And you'll see throughout this draft process, the captains make the selections. You'll have the facilitators along with those players all in their respective draft rooms. And you see the assist leaders, as I mentioned, Hallie right up there, just 2 behind Sam Apuzzo, Charlotte North, and Ali Mastriani. All those players you see on the board have either been drafted or sit in the captain's chair, that being right now Sam Apuzzo. So a lot of talent off the board. Here's how the rosters have shaped out thus far. And with this snake draft, round number 5 begins with Team Glenn, who is ready for the pick.
I'm ready. Defender, Courtney Taylor.
All right, so we've seen, interestingly enough, in this final draft coverage, a lot of defenders being taken early. Becca Block, Emma Trenchard, already off the board, and another standout in the defensive unit being Courtney Taylor, with her cause being Team Impact. certainly was impactful during her time at Boston College for a number of runs to championship weekend for the Eagles. We move on. Amanda, ready to go.
Defender, Meg Dowdy.
And another defender is off the board, Meg Dowdy, who will be joined up with Becca Block. It's going to be certainly a dynamic duo in the defensive unit for Team Johansson. Dowdy, who was instrumental in championship runs in her time with the Terps under Kathy Reese. So 2 of the last 3 picks from Team Johansson have been defenders, as Dowdy there you see, sunshine and all. And Dowdy was one of the biggest movers of the week this past weekend in Sparks, Maryland. Courtney Fortunato, who's already off the board, made the biggest jump, 19 spots. And the other 2 goalies in Molly Wolf and Kaylee Waters, a part of that group as well. Hoping to hear their name being called relatively soon. So as we wait for Team Apuzzo to make their selection, here's what remains in terms of attackers and midfielders, defenders and goalies. Keep in mind, 2 of the goalies are captains this week in the final week of this draft coverage here on YouTube for season number 2 of Athletes Unlimited. Each captain getting 2 minutes per pick, and Sam is ready to make her selection.
Midfielder, Grace Griffin.
Okay, so Grace Griffin taken off the board, selected by Team Apuzzo in round number 5. So Sam going the way of Terp Nation in back-to-back picks, going with Grace Griffin. At the midfield spot, she'll be joined by Dempsey Arsenal and Katie O'Donnell. So Sam needs 1 more midfielder to fulfill that requirement of 4 midfielders. Lizzie Colson, Grace Griffin, the last 2 picks, both out of the University of Maryland, will be wearing orange this weekend. And you can imagine a lot of fanfare for those 2 with Sparks, Maryland being outside of Baltimore. As Grace Griffin, there she is at the bottom of your screen in the draft room now with Team Apuzzo. So that puts Team Johansson on the clock in this 5th round. What direction will Amanda go? All right, should say Taylor Moreno, we're waiting to round out the 5th round. We've already seen Courtney Taylor, Meg Dowdy, and Grace Griffin go off the board in round number 3. So as the snake draft works its way through this draft, it's going to be Taylor Moreno making the final pick of round 5, but then a quick turnaround to make the first pick of round number 6. And if you're just joining us, Charlotte North was taken first overall by Team Glenn. Second time that the rookie this year has been selected number 1 overall for Athletes Unlimited. That was followed by Allie Mastriani, Dempsey Arsenal, and Marie Mccool. Final pick of round 5 goes to Taylor. Who do you pick?
Defender, Cookie Carr.
A lot of defenders being taken off the board early. And this time, Team Moreno going back-to-back defenders after Emma Trenchard, the former North Carolina star, was taken in round number 4. Here in round number 5, Kristen Carr, another defender out of North Carolina, a native of Baltimore, Maryland. So you can imagine the fanfare that Kristen will have on hand in Sparks, Maryland this coming weekend. Marie Mccool, along with Kenzie Kent, with the first 2 picks of the night for Team Moreno, who will start off round number 6 with the first pick, and she is ready to go.
Midfielder, Kelsey Huff.
All right, so Kelsey Huff has been selected first pick of round number 6 out of USC, with her cause being Harlem Lacrosse. And again, all these players that come in play for a specific cause or charity, and in fact, half their leaderboard bonus is matched and donated to that specific charity or cause. So Kelsey Huff inside the team room of Team Moreno as round number 6 of this final draft special here on YouTube for season number 2 of Athletes Unlimited is underway. And now we turn it over to Sam for her pick.
Attacker, Andy Aldave.
Okay, so a third attacker has been taken. Sam Apuzzo along with Lauren Gilbert. And so Andy Aldave has been added as an injury replacement for Jamie Ortega, who is out for the final week here in Athletes Unlimited. She previously played with North Carolina, a grad transfer from Notre Dame. In fact, her two sisters, Maddie, played at Johns Hopkins. Her sister Paige also played at Florida. So she is an added replacement with the injury to Jamie Ortega inside the draft room for Team Apuzzo. And so we're happy to have Andy a part of the fold in this year, season number 2 of Athletes Unlimited. We move on. Amanda with her round 6 pick.
Goalie, Kaylee Waters.
Okay, so Kaylee Waters, who was a captain in week number 1, you may recall finished second last season with just over 1,700 total points. And she has been certainly marquee between the pipes, a native of Darien, Connecticut. Just some of the highlights we have seen has been just a stone wall in between the pipes for whatever color jersey that she dons. And it will be blue this coming weekend as Kaylee, part of North Carolina's 2016 National Championship team. So outside of the two captains who are goalies, the first goalie is off the board in Kaylee Waters, who will be wearing blue this weekend in Sparks, Maryland. As you see, Kaylee on the bottom portion of your screen inside the draft room for Team Johansson. And Katie ready to go to round out the 6th round.
Defender, Katrina Geiger.
A lot of defenders being taken off the board. Katrina Geiger, the latest to hear her name after Courtney Taylor. Another defender was taken off the board in round 5. Both her and Team Glenn. And Katie Glenn coming out of Loyola, Maryland, with her cause being Support a Sport. So Katrina Geiger, the final selection in round number 6. And because of this snake draft, Team Glenn will begin round number 7. So a quick turnaround for Katie Glenn to make the selection here in round number 7. Hey, by the way, new season, new look, new merch. Be sure to check out all of the brand new Athletes Unlimited items, including lacrosse player names and number tees. Go to shop.auprosports.com to purchase yours today. So as we wait for Team Glenn to make their next selection, here is what Katie and the rest of the captains are looking at in terms of the best available still on the board. You've got the likes of Nicole Levy, Kerrigan Miller, and captains also, based on the rules in Athletes Unlimited, you have to have 4 attackers, 4 midfielders, 4 defenders, and 2 goalies on your roster. Then they can play those players in any position they want once they have them, but they must draft them in those categories. And on to round 7, and Katie Glenn is ready to make her pick.
Midfielder, Alyssa Perella.
Okay, so Alyssa Perella, midfielder, is the 3rd midfielder selected by Team Glenn, wearing purple this weekend in the final week of Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse out of Hofstra. So Perella will join the midfield line of Allie Kennedy and Haley Warden. So one more midfielder is needed for Team Glenn to fulfill that requirement. And she has now joined in on the draft room for Team Glenn as round number 7 continues on. Team Johansson is on the clock to make her selection. And here's what Amanda has done so far, and she is standing by with her selection in round 7.
Midfielder, Kelly McPartland.
Kelly McPartland, taken after Meg Doty and Kaylee Waters, selected in 5 and 6. Meg Dowdy along with Kaylee Waters, the latest to wear the blue jersey. Kelly McPartland, I should say, out of Maryland, a native of Farmingdale, New York. She will be a part of Team Johansson as she now has dialed into the draft room for Team Johansson, wearing the blue this weekend at the USA Lacrosse headquarters in Sparks, Maryland. Sam is ready to go with her pick.
Defender, Caroline Wakefield.
Okay, so Caroline Wakefield, another defender, is off the board. Lizzie Colson was the first, taken by Team Apuzzo back in round number 4. And so now Caroline will be coming over to Orange this weekend as the North Carolina grad looking to solidify that defensive unit. And you'll notice as well, once these players hear their names, they move up in terms into the draft room, and that draft room, they certainly get crowded as well. So we've talked about how great defenders have been this year in Athletes Unlimited. Just look at the numbers. Lizzie Colson right now leads the league in caused turnovers with 15. Caroline, who we just heard her name being drafted, is second behind Lizzie in caused turnovers with 13. Dempsey Arsenault, Becca Block, who is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and Amanda Johansson rounding out the top 5. So as we continue through this draft, here is who's been selected by their respective captain. After we saw Alyssa Perella, Kelly McPartland, and Caroline Wakefield, we're waiting on Team Moreno to make the final pick in this 7th round. And as we wait for Taylor's selection, we want to remind everyone as well, for every assist during this year's Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse season, Aspiration is planting 10 trees. Heading into this week, 1,380 have been committed this season thanks to Aspiration's support. So as we wait for Taylor's selection to close out round number 7, keep in mind, in the latter stages of these drafts, automatic drops play a factor. Those are categories that captains need to have filled to round out their roster in Athletes Unlimited. And Taylor is standing by, ready to make that final pick of round 7.
Attacker Alex Ost-Holman.
Alex Ost-Holman, you see her husband Marcus play week in and week out in the PLL. She hears her name and is off the board. The former Maryland standout, her cause is being Harlem Lacrosse. And she joins in, bottom right of your screen. So she will be donning the gold jersey this coming weekend in Sparks, Maryland for the final week of the 2nd season of Athletes Unlimited. And you see who else has been joined in on the fray as well. Marie Mccool, Kenzie Kent. Great depth of talent will be wearing gold this coming weekend. So as this snake draft moves on, as we work our way to round number 8, Taylor will have the first pick in this 8th round. This is what she, her facilitator, and the rest of her teammates for gold are looking at in terms of what needs have to be fulfilled. 4 attackers, 4 midfielders, 4 defenders, and 2 goalies. And a reminder as well that the Unlimited Club provides great benefits, including voting on league decisions, interaction with players, signed items, and much more. For more information or to join today, just go to auprosports.com. So let's take a look at the rosters through the first 7 rounds and see how it has shaped out for Team Moreno. Marie Mccool was the first pick for her, followed by Kenzie Kent, Lindsay McCone, Emma Trenchard, Kristen Carr, Kelsey Huff, and Alex Ost-Holman. And it's interesting to note that there's a great deal of intrigue and optimism for both Team Moreno and Team Apuzzo going into this weekend because the two are separated by just 6 points. As Taylor ready to go to begin round 8.
Defender Ali Palermo.
Ali Palermo taken to begin round number 8 of this final week draft special here on YouTube. And so this 4th and final week, Ali Palermo out of Northwestern, One Love Foundation being her cause. And she hears her name and immediately goes right into the draft room for Team Moreno, joined by her teammates, facilitator, and captain. Sam has the next pick, ready to go.
Defender Ella Simpkins.
Boy, a lot of defenders being selected early. So after going Caroline Wakefield, Team Apuzzo going with her 3rd defender along with Lizzie Colson. Ella Simpkins out of Syracuse with her cause being Team Impact. Ella Simpkins, who has been an impact player herself in the defensive unit this season in Athletes Unlimited. And the draft room getting much more crowded for all these respective captains as Ella makes her way into the draft room for Team Apuzzo, and Amanda is ready for the next pick.
Attacker Scotty Rose Growney.
All right, so attacker Scotty Rose Growney is going to be donning the blue jersey this weekend down in Sparks, Maryland, after Kelly McPartland was the latest selection in round 7. Growney, a North Carolina grad, with her cause being Morgan's Message. And there's Scotty at the bottom of your screen, wearing once again that blue that she wore in her time at North Carolina this weekend in the final week of season 2 for Team Johansson. And just a reminder as well, Amanda Johansson, one of the captains, will be part of the meet and greet following our draft coverage special here on YouTube, part of the Unlimited Club perks. You can upgrade or join as an MVP or captain. Again, Amanda Johansson will be part of the meet and greets. And so as we wait through the final pick by Team Glenn in round number 8, here's how it stands for the respective rosters. Katie Glenn, who, along with Taylor Moreno, the 2 goalie captains this week. Amanda Johansson, a midfielder in own right, and Sam Apuzzo, one of the most talented attackers in the world, having taken her friend and teammate Dempsey Arsenal with her first pick, 3rd overall. So Katie Glenn right now has 2 attackers still left to go, 2 defenders as well, and only 1 midfielder. So right now, we'll have to see which direction Katie wants to go in terms of the direction for her team. And the rosters, as they continue to build, this is what they're looking at, and Katie is ready to go with her next pick.
Midfielder Taylor Vanthoff.
Taylor Vanthoff, another midfielder, is off the board, so that will fulfill the necessary 4 midfielder requirement here for Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse. Taylor, who, just like Katie, played her time at Loyola, Maryland. And there you see Taylor joining in on the fray in the draft room for Team Glenn. So as we wait for Team Glenn to start off round number 9, here's how the first 8 rounds have shaped out. And round 1, as you saw off the top, Team Glenn going with Charlotte North. Team Johansson went with Ali Mastriani. Team Apuzzo drafted Dempsey Arsenal, and Marie Mccool was the final pick of round number 1 for Taylor Moreno. And as we begin round number 9, Katie is ready to make the pick in the snake draft. Katie?
Attacker Molly Stevens.
All right, so Charlotte North, Ali Mastriani, and now Molly Stevens is off the board. And Stevens put together one of the best plays of the weekend. How about this? Behind the back, shovel shot into the back of the cage. In fact, it was so good, it was number 4 on SportsCenter's top 10 over the weekend. And that is the type of talent that is coming towards Team Glenn this coming weekend in the final week of lacrosse in Athletes Unlimited in season number 2. And Molly hears her name and immediately goes into the draft room for Team Glenn. And so now we move on to Team Johansson with their next pick.
Defender Kira Pelton.
Kira Pelton is coming off the board, and she'll be wearing blue this weekend for Team Johansson. So interesting balance. The last 4 picks. Kira Pelton out of Stanford, so a USC star picking a Stanford star. Interesting way to go, but Pelton, a defender, Rose Growney, an attacker, McPartland in the midfield, and Waters in the goalie spot. That is how the balance has been for Team Johansson. And here is the final week of Athletes Unlimited in season number 2. It all gets underway 5:30 p.m. Eastern, Thursday from Sparks, Maryland, with Team Johansson going up against Team Apuzzo, Team Moreno versus Team Glenn on ESPN2. Saturday's games you can see on ESPNU, and on Sunday, games available on ESPN2 and on ESPN+. The great talented duo of Joe Beninati and Courtney Martinez-Connor will have all the action for you from the USA Lacrosse headquarters in Sparks, Maryland. So as we continue through, Team Apuzzo, who's still looking for a goalie. Perhaps that's the way Sam goes with this selection. But we are halfway through this round after Molly Stevens and Cara Pelton were both taken off the board. And Sam is ready to go with her next pick.
Midfielder, Kerrigan Miller.
All right, so not a goalie, but a midfielder. This time, Kerrigan Miller will join the midfield unit of Grace Griffin, Katie O'Donnell, and Dempsey Arsenault. So 4 midfielders, that fulfills that requirement as Miller out of North Carolina, inclusive sports and fitness being her cause, has been taken in this 9th round, and that leaves Taylor Moreno with the final pick in round number 9. She'll also have the first pick in round number 10. 13 rounds in total for all of these captains to choose from. As Kerrigan Miller, you see in the bottom right portion of your screen, has joined in on the Zoom chat in the draft room for Team Apuzzo. And the players still are looking at these players available, including Taylor Moreno. Which direction will she go? Only a couple of midfielders still left on the board. Attacker-wise, you've got Sammy Jo Tracy, Izzy McMahon, and Nicole Levy. And Taylor needs a couple of tackers. Will that be the direction she goes here in round number 9?
Defender, Amber Mckenzie.
Amber Mckenzie, who moved up 13 spots, is the final pick in round number 9. So that will lock up the defensive unit for Taylor Moreno, who will have Emma Trenchard, Kristen Carr, along with Allie Palermo, and now Amber Mckenzie in front of her. All smiles, all waves as Mckenzie, another North Carolina grad out of Westminster, Maryland, will be donning the gold this coming weekend. So that wraps up 9 rounds. 4 more rounds to go as we're waiting for Team Moreno to make the first pick in round number 10. But here's how the rosters lay out to this point for Team Moreno, Team Apuzzo, Team Johansson, and Team Glynn. So if you're just joining us, Charlotte North was the first overall pick, followed by Allie Mastriani, who will be playing this weekend. She's active with limitations. Dempsey Arsenault and Sam Apuzzo once again joining up with one another. And Marie Mccool, former North Carolina Tar Heel, she and Taylor Moreno, another North Carolina Tar Heel, will be joining up in the final week of season number 2 here in Athletes Unlimited. So this will be a challenge now the rest of the way for not only the captains but the facilitators to act more like assistant GMs, because at this point now, automatic drops in which categories must be filled by these captains in the necessary requirements for the rosters. They're looking at attackers, only 5 available, a couple of midfielders, 4 defenders, and still some talented goalies on the board, including Brittany Reed, who was also a captain in week number 1, part of Team England in the World Lacrosse Games. Perhaps that's where Team Apuzzo goes here in round number 10. Taylor Moreno still looking at that list, needing a couple attackers. Izzy McMahon, Aurora accordingly, still available on the board for Team Moreno. And here's how the roster has been played out. Her last pick being Amber Mckenzie, and she's ready to go here in round 10.
Goalie, Molly Wolf.
All right, so there we go. Molly Wolf coming off the board, the backup to Taylor Moreno this weekend in Sparks, Maryland. Molly, who, just like Amber Mckenzie, was one of the biggest movers of the week. Molly, in fact, moved up 14 spots in the leaderboard. And I love the hats. That is the most decorated way to come onto a draft room call for Team Moreno. High five there all the way around, Molly Wolf. Well done. Well done. By far the best entrance we have seen by any player drafted here tonight in Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse. And as we await to hear from Sam Apuzzo with her next pick, a reminder as well, you can always stay connected on Twitter with us at AU Pro Sports. Also follow us on a number of social media platforms, whether it be here on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok, or on Facebook. And certainly follow some of these players. Some of these players have amazing social media presence, and you definitely don't want to miss that as well. So as we await for Team Apuzzo to make the next selection in round number 10, this is how the rosters have shaped out thus far. Molly Wolf, the latest player coming off the board. Team Apuzzo, who right now still is looking for a goalie. In fact, 2 goalies. Apuzzo, who took Dempsey Arsenal, Lauren Gilbert, Katie O'Donnell, and Lizzie Colson with her first 4 selections. Recently has gone defender in 2 of her last 3 picks with Caroline Wakefield, Ella Simpkins, and the latest selection for her being Kerrigan Miller. But it is a tight race if you're just joining us. Taylor Moreno has a 6-point lead on Sam Apuzzo entering this final week of season number 2 of an Athletes Unlimited, and Sam is ready to go with the next pick.
Attacker, Aurora accordingly.
Okay, so not goalie is the selection in round 10, but another attacker, and that will be the 4th one, including Sam herself, Aurora accordingly. After taking Kerrigan Miller in the previous round, a native of Ontario, Canada, and another Terp is off the board, with her cause being Morgan's Message. And Amanda is standing by with her next pick.
Goalie, Mira Shane.
Mira Shane, another goalie coming off the board after Kaylee Waters was selected by Team Johansson back in round number 6. A native of Princeton, New Jersey, having played her college in Michigan. And we always love seeing Mira Shane come into the fold. She has a level of excitement not being able to be registered on the Richter scale. That is how much personality she brings in the fold here in Athletes Unlimited. All smiles as she will be wearing the blue, lighter shade of blue. Not Michigan blue, but still a lighter shade of blue. And the rosters continue to be formulated and constructed by these respective captains, with Team Glenn ready to go with the final pick of this round.
Attacker, Izzy McMahon.
Izzy McMahon, she hears her name coming off the board, who has been certainly an offensive threat in the attack unit for her respective team. She scored all 10 of her goals over the last 5 games. So Molly Stevens, Izzy McMahon, back-to-back attackers taken by Team Glenn, as the former USC star comes into the fold in the draft room for Team Glenn, who, because of this snake draft, will have the first pick in round number 11. And so the players left available, those players dwindling in respective categories, just 3 attackers, 3 goalies, 4 defenders, and just 2 midfielders remain for these captains to pick from, working in coalition with their facilitators, those players that those captains have selected, communicating with them through DMs, text messages, helping in terms of information, insight, to get the best pick possible in their selection. With 10 rounds in the books, we are waiting Katie Glenn's pick to begin round number 11. And you can tell there's a lot more challenging avenues to take. Could automatic drops become a factor as well for these captains? And Katie is ready to go to begin round 11.
Defender, Sydney Parekha.
Sydney Parekha, another defender off the board. So after going back-to-back midfielders, back-to-back attackers, the 3rd defender is taken off the board for Team Glenn, wearing the purple this weekend. Sydney Parekha, a standout in her own right at her time with the Florida Gators. And there you see Sydney at the bottom of the draft room for Team Glenn, as Amanda is ready to go with the next pick.
Defender, Kayla Wood.
Okay, so Kayla Wood, who is questionable. She's still eligible to be drafted, as we just see her name being called. Didn't play last week, did Kayla Wood, so hopefully we'll see some action this coming weekend. The native of Baltimore, Maryland, one of the hotbeds of lacrosse, just outside of Sparks, Maryland. Another North Carolina Tar Heel off the board, and that will be another defender off the board for Team Johansson, as Sam ready to go with her pick.
Goalie, Britt Reed.
All right, so a little bit of a while to come to get a goalie, but Team Apuzzo does in round number 11. Britt Reed, a former captain in Athletes Unlimited out of Oregon, who represented Team England in the Women's Lacrosse World Games, in which she earned a bronze medal. In fact, she's been a part of the game on the college level, having served as an assistant coach on the University of Denver staff over the last 4 years. So Team Apuzzo has their first goalie off the board. Still has one more to go to fulfill that requirement of 2 goalies in Athletes Unlimited. As you see, these draft rooms continue to be built up and get a little bit more packed in terms of all these players coming into the fold in the respective draft rooms. So here is how round 11 has been shaping out so far. Sydney Parekha, Kayla Wood, and Brittany Reed have been the selections 1, 2, and 3 in this 11th round. And Taylor, as we await from her to pick the final selection as round 11. So again, if you're just joining us, it started with Charlotte North back in the first pick of round 1. Ali Mastriani, a former number 1 pick, Dempsey Arsenal, a former captain, and Marie Mccool, who also was a number 1 pick this season in Athletes Unlimited. But again, 4 attackers, 4 midfielders, 4 defenders, and 2 goalies. That is what each captain must do as a requirement to construct their roster here in Athletes Unlimited. And only 9 more players remain to hear their names being called. And now that all 4 of the top goalies have been drafted, let's take a look at those 4 goalies in terms of save percentage. You've got Taylor Moreno, number 1 in save percentage at .570 on the season. And as we mentioned Taylor's name, she's ready to go to begin this next round.
Midfielder Jill Girardi.
Okay, so Jill Girardi, I should say, is the final pick of round number 11. And so only 1 midfielder remains, as the 4th midfielder for Team Moreno is off the board. Girardi, who played her college ball at Northwestern out of Watertown, New York, will join the line of Kelsey Huff along with Lindsay McCone and Marie Mccool. And as this snake draft works its way to the 12th round, we see the draft room of Team Moreno. 8 players still left to be selected in these final 2 rounds of round 12 and round 13. Nicole Levy and Sammy Jo Tracy, a couple of the attackers still on the board, and Taylor is ready to go here in round number 12.
Attacker Nicole Levy.
Okay, so Nicole Levy, who could be certainly a sneaky pick, and one of those picks here in round number 12 that could make an impact. In fact, her cause is Team Impact. The former Syracuse standout will be wearing gold this weekend in Sparks, Maryland for the final week of the 2nd season here in Athletes Unlimited. So Nicole Levy starting off round number 12, and Sam has the next pick.
Defender, Sarah Cooper.
Defender Sarah Cooper will join a defensive unit with Ella Simpkins, Caroline Wakefield. And so Sarah Cooper out of Syracuse, with her cause being One Love Foundation, is off the board being selected, and Amanda has the next pick.
Attacker, Shayna Parekha.
Shayna Parekha, the latest name to be called in round number 12. And the 4th attacker has been selected for Team Johansson out of Florida. So that leaves Team Glenn with the final pick in round number 12. And Katie is ready to make the selection.
Goalie Paulina DeFada.
All right, so Katie Glenn picking her backup in the final pick of round number 12. Paulina DeFada out of Pittsburgh, her cause being Morgan's Message, the 2nd goalie taken. Again, keep in mind that Taylor Moreno and Katie Glenn, the 2 captains that are goalies this week in Athletes Unlimited. And that gets us to round number 13. We could see automatic drops coming into play in this final round of 13 rounds for these captains. But thus far, Team Moreno, Team Apuzzo, Team Johansson, and Team Glenn. All right, last pick for Katie. Who do you got?
Defender, Molly Little.
All right, final pick that will be wearing purple this weekend in Sparks, Maryland will be Molly Little. So that rounds out the 14-player roster for Team Glenn. You see it there on the left-hand portion of your screen. And we've got automatic drops the rest of the way. So Team Johansson going with Sydney Watson, fulfilling that fourth and final midfielder. Molly Doherty as well between the pipes, the final goalie that was needed for Team Apuzzo, and Sammy Jo Tracy, who will not be available Saturday, but has been eligible to be drafted, a member of the Israel national team. And so that is the look at all the teams. And here's a look at the schedules as Joe Beninati and Courtney Martinez-Connor will have the calls for us from Sparks, Maryland. The final week in Athletes Unlimited. Games on ESPNU, ESPN2, and available on ESPN+. One final look at the draft rooms. There is Team Glenn, all smiles and waves all the way around. Team Johansson looking to make an impact in this final week in Athletes Unlimited in the second year of women's lacrosse. How about Team Apuzzo? Can anyone stop Sam and company? And finally, Team Moreno, will it be Taylor holding up the championship crown by the end of the weekend in Sparks, Maryland? Those are your four teams ready to go this coming weekend. So again, first and second place separated by just 6 points. So much intrigue, so many storylines. We hope you will join us coming up on Thursday for Sparks, Maryland. For all of us here on YouTube, thanks so much for joining us here in our final draft coverage of season number 2 of Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse. Have a great night.